Yeah. I don't like Ross on Friends. And I think it's because he's a narcissist.
This is Shrinks and Giggles, your no BS guide to navigating the pitfalls of modern mental health.
From AI therapy to self-diagnosis spirals, we're here to cut through the pop psych noise from your feed.
I'm Melissa.
And I'm Michaela, your psychologist BFFs.
Let's dive in.
Okay, great.
Hi, welcome back to Shrinks and Giggles. I'm Melissa.
And I'm Michaela.
Today, we are talking about narcissism, and specifically, we're talking about all of the times that you reflect on friends, family, loved ones, and wonder, are they an asshole or are they a narcissist?
A valid question. One that, stumps many. Yeah.
It does.
Yeah.
So why are we talking about narcissism?
Yeah.
Well, I think it's become a very popular term. I have people come into the office pretty routinely and say, am I a narcissist? Not often the testing clients, but definitely people who are in therapy reflecting on how they interact with other people, when they may have had a selfish moment.
We have a very individualistic society that lends to, maybe people leaning more towards only thinking about themselves and wanting to fit in somewhere without much community resource access. And I don't know that that's like always pushed on social media either, too, because it's like, look at me in this restaurant. I don't, eating this food. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you could easily be an influencer and go to all these fancy places and largely be by yourself taking selfies and, eating pretty food.
Yeah.
And no one would know the better.
Right.
And if you go to influencer events, if you've been to any ever, they're pretty dull to watch. It's a lot of people wandering around taking pictures of themselves and not interacting with other people and not really having a meaningful experience connecting.
Yeah.
So, okay, we're a pretty narcissistic society. We're pretty lost. And people are posting things about narcissism, and a lot of people are vibing. A lot of people are like, yeah, I know somebody like that. I know a few people like that. I live with someone like that, whatever, the case may be. So, yeah. So it's at the forefront, I think, in terms of being something that people are thinking about. And on the more serious side of things, okay, societally, we have raised a number of, I would say, men in particular who are not provided the space to reflect on their emotional experience, to discuss their inner lives. And that's reinforced. Mm-hmm. And in reinforcing that, and particularly in reinforcing that in our current culture and all of the climate that is going on right now, there's, an amplification effect of this. And being a narcissist, it gets you ahead. It gets you the things that you want. It gets you more opportunities. It gets you respect. You may never, if you're a narcissist, feel deeply connected to other people, but you know how to use them to get what you want. And there are more clinically men diagnosed as narcissists than women. And that can look very different in romantic relationships in particular. We've routinely heard narcissism used in tandem with our president. I would say he has some overt narcissistic traits. I mean, that he's got the arrogance, he's got the dominance, he's got the showiness. He sometimes comes off a bit entitled.
For sure.
Trump could be considered a type of overt narcissist. Now, overt narcissists generally can be, kind of charming and entertaining at times to interact with, and they tend to do really well in this world. I mean,
I think a lot. Yeah, I saw a statistic a while ago. It's probably outdated now and probably needs to be updated. But yeah, like a lot of CEOs, but like
Yes.
high
Yeah,
achieving,
high power,
successful people. Yeah, are pretty
absolutely.
have narcissistic traits at least.
Right. So there is something adaptive to that because people gravitate towards confidence, right? And there are definitely a lot of people in society who, find that if someone is outspoken about their opinions, their beliefs, their direction, that they're, able to kind of plug into that energy. And feel good about it. There is this song from Wish that Magnifico, the king, sings, and this is the thanks I get.
Yes.
And I feel like Magnifico, both in his name and in his mannerisms, epitomizes what we're talking about.
I can't help it if mirrors love my face. It's genetics. Yeah, I got these genes from outer space. Keep the name, I'm magnificent. I put the I and I'm omnipotent. I'm passionate. I'm not petulant. Someone praise me for my benevolence.
Yeah. Yeah, he steals the wishes of his community to make himself more powerful. So I think that is in alignment with what you were even saying about most of the time narcissists who capitalize on that can be pretty successful.
Yeah, his justification for stealing wishes is, oh, well, I provide you all of these things.
Yeah.
This safe, wonderful town, this connected community. I do these things, but what he's not reflecting on is the cost of taking what is essentially
their dreams
spark of a human being out of them.
The core spark. No, for sure. For sure. It's so sad. I know. Yeah. It doesn't click in his head that that's probably not okay.
Right. That's not very nice.
No, that's not going to make someone's life worth living if you take away their will to live. Yeah. Yeah.
And yet, even I, in moments of, say, folding my 6th basket of laundry, will be thinking this song in my head and thinking, this is the thanks I get.
And this is the thanks I get.
Yes.
No one maybe is helping me in that moment. And yes, I'm then having perhaps a moment of reflection of how narcissistic am I that I'm singing this song because I'm frustrated by the amount of laundry I have.
Does that make you a narcissist? No.
I don't know, Michaela. What do you think? Does that make me a narcissist? I can't diagnose myself.
This is how I'm telling. Yeah, Melissa, this is how I'm telling you that you're a narcissist. Absolutely not. Obviously, no.
I mean, that maybe. I don't
know. No. An upset mom because she has no help from anyone in the house because she's on her 6th load of laundry does not make you a narcissist because you related to King Magnifico for a second.
Yes.
Yeah. I know. I always wanted to be like Molly Weasley where she has all the different things, going, like the things being scrubbed in the sink. And...
Yes. Absolutely. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Amazing plan. Okay. I like it.
I think it's brilliant.
And I wouldn't say that Mrs. Weasley is a narcissist, but
no.
She's juggling things amazingly. So kudos to her. And I don't think her husband is a narcissist either. But Voldemort, I mean, although he has some other traits going on. But definitely go with malignant narcissist for I would argue.
You have allowed your friends to die for you rather than face me yourself. There is no greater dishonor.
What is a malignant narcissist? All right, well, when you think about Voldemort, obviously one of the first things that you think about is that he's deceptive. He's also really vindictive, right? He's after Harry Potter because he was
the only one who defeated him.
Right. His mother managed to protect him, and Harry Potter has this special thing now, and so he's just got to get after him until he's gone. Sadistic, so intentionally harming other people for your own personal enjoyment.
Not one of you tried to find me. Crap! Damn! Nah!
I mean, obviously he has that in spades. Now,
Yeah.
you know,
The Cruciatus curse.
yes, exactly. Right. Manipulative. I mean, okay, sure. He's controlling people's lives. He's got, you know, the different people who are his minions in various different books. And he's definitely manipulated them to get them into that situation.
I returned out of fear, not loyalty. Still, you have proved yourself useful these past few months, Wormtail. Thank you, Master. Thank you.
So, you know, yeah, he meets all of the check marks for a malignant narcissist. So,
Yeah.
there aren't a ton of these in our society, but, you know, there's maybe gradations of malignant narcissism you might see within a narcissist. So, you know, it's something to think about. I mean, obviously with Voldemort and, you know, others that are in the real world that are not capable of magic, what we're talking about is, you know, something that may be kind of more aligned with, you know, sociopathy, psychopathy, those kinds of things as well. But
Yeah.
nonetheless, yeah, we're talking about this really profound ability to manipulate others without any consideration for any emotion, anything, and any cost to another human is worth it.
Yeah. Think like Logan Ross from Succession.
If you move against me, I'll put a hole in the back of your fucking head.
And then there's also covert narcissists. These people also have the entitlement and manipulation, but it's usually hidden behind like shyness or fake humility or victim mentality. And a good representation of this is Ray Nicholson's character in I Love You Forever. That he, as soon as they kind of enter into this relationship, it becomes very obvious that he is, you know, narcissistic.
What's taking so long? When are you gonna be home?
Name one thing you've done for me.
You don't care about me.
I don't think I could live without you.
Why didn't you answer my calls? Why didn't you leave class to answer? Why are you ignoring me?
My entire life revolves around you.
Typically, I would argue, from a practical standpoint, the covert narcissism is one that kind of confuses people a little bit in a sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like you can kind of think of it like a failed narcissist. They're someone who grew up in an environment where they, you know, maybe didn't have their emotions particularly validated, but, you know, their accomplishments were held as, you know, part of their identity. And there was a lot of rigidity and a lot of, you know, potentially somewhat emotionally abusive, neglectful stuff going on.
Yeah.
And they, you know, kind of started to identify this sense of self that was relatively strong, but didn't feel like they knew how to assert themselves in the world to succeed. And so they're a little bit more, you know, vengeful, irritated by other people, don't feel good about themselves, but will, use that to kind of try to manipulate people and assert their needs first.
Our fifth narcissist is antagonistic.
Yes.
Which kind of is how it sounds, right? They're hostile, they're aggressive, they're competitive.
Yeah. I don't love that depiction because I feel like any of these narcissists we're talking about can become antagonistic.
Yeah.
If you inflame a narcissist, that's where they go. They go to this competitive, aggressive, argumentative, confrontational space that can be really overwhelming. I don't know. I was thinking about It's All Her Fault. And I was thinking about one of the characters within that whose name I've written down, but for the life of me,
Peter Irvine?
Peter Irvine, right.
Yeah.
Yes, the husband to one of the main characters. And he has a lot of the traits of kind of a communal narcissist in the sense that he's like the head of the family and he's feeding them in this way that's like, I will create salvation and protect my wife. And then you start to find out more about what's going on. And as that transpires, he does become more antagonistic, and he is more actively like, well, of course I did these things. This was justified, as opposed to there being any sense of remorse or awareness of impact for the other person, and of whom he's impacted many. So yeah, it's a pretty, anyway, good watch.
I didn't lie. I just never corrected you.
Okay, so then we were going to talk about some myths related to narcissism. Okay, so
you kind of already tapped on one a little bit. The narcissism equals confidence myth. Yeah. And I think we were dabbling in it a little bit with those overt, vulnerable narcissists that just because you're narcissistic does not actually mean that you have much confidence. I would argue that
the contrary.
Yeah, they don't really have much confidence at all. There's a lot of imbalances and emotional dysregulation issues. I have confidence and confidence indeed.
Right, but that doesn't mean you're a narcissist, Michaela, as we well know. I well know. Yeah, you can feel really comfortable in yourself and have boundaries and have insights into your emotional well-being, needs, all of those things, and advocate for yourself and not be a narcissist.
Which you actually that makes me think, like what you were saying, where people come in and they're like, I feel like I'm a narcissist, or am I being narcissistic, or because I think a lot of times we're taught early on, or I see, throughout our work, that you're taught early on that, you should fit into society, don't make waves, don't put, to speak for your own needs or to put boundaries into place means that you're being selfish, or you're, being conflictual, right, in the family unit or whatever. But to put in boundaries and to put in safety nets doesn't make you narcissistic, right? That makes you protecting yourself. Yeah. So
yeah, absolutely.
That was my little sidebar.
No, I 110% agree. Yes. Yeah, the trick with narcissism is, you mentioned it earlier, it's an act, but it's a default setting. It's, a character that they are so accustomed to playing that they don't stop playing that character. That it is, one of, if they admit wrongdoing, there's this term narcissistic injury. The idea there is you've cut them to the quick. You've cut them to a point that they can't recover from, that they are suddenly like the little Voldemort under the hood, that they are very vulnerable and incapable of defending themselves. And that if they make a mistake, it is not just they made a mistake, they're bad, but that they are wholesale 110% bad. Yeah. And they defend against that entirely.
Yeah. Another myth is all narcissists love themselves, which kind of could play a little bit in the confidence area. But yeah, again, you could argue that they definitely don't all love themselves.
No.
Probably most of them don't. Yeah.
Right. But at the same time, because of how they treat other people, they may come off as unloving. They're going to come off as selfish. They're going to come off as uncaring.
Yeah. That seems like, yeah, the only people they do love is themselves. Yeah. That probably does stem from that, the mythology of Narcissus, where he, sees himself and he's in love with himself. But
this is a good one. If someone hurts you, they're a narcissist.
Yeah, that's not true.
It's a good default setting, though.
Yeah.
I think one that we are totally down for societally. We're like, oh my gosh, can you believe how narcissistic this was? And it's not always.
Right.
Yeah. Most of the time, in fact, it may not be.
Yeah. I mean, there's just statistically, probably not this many narcissists walking around. Yeah.
And there is something to be said for developmental regression as well as developmental narcissism, which, you know, I think is important to point out. I know I was at the playground the other day and I mentioned it, and then I realized that I probably offended a parent, but I didn't mean to, 'cause this kid was just like, I am amazing at this and that and this and that. And, you know, it was super cute. And I said, gotta love the developmental narcissism. And, you know, I meant it. And if this person had known I was a psychologist, that probably would have helped. But they didn't.
Maybe.
So I was like, oops. But,
that's hilarious.
Yeah.
No context.
Yeah, well, you know, I had no filter. It was late in the evening.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Tired.
Right. Things happen.
Right. But yeah, I mean, if within my own kids, I'm excited when they demonstrate developmental narcissism, because that just means that, you know, they're feeling supported and they feel good about themselves. And developmentally, we don't really honestly expect or anticipate a shift in that. Honestly, this is sort of depressing, but until they start, you know, around maybe 9, 10, when they actively start to try to integrate how other people are perceiving them. And then, okay, yeah, that's kind of like somebody came along and popped their balloon.
But the little bubble. Yeah. Their little safe, mommy loves me bubble.
Yeah.
Mommy thinks I'm amazing.
Right. Or if they think you're bad at something, you know, or whatever, that, you know, mom still loves you. And, you know, I mean, that's,
Which is why socialization is important, in community and other people's perspectives. Yeah. So it grows people. Yeah. I think our final myth that we had was that narcissists know exactly what they're doing. And you were telling me about some people that are on social media that are more like insightful narcissists, which is an interesting phenomenon, and cool that they're out there, you know, sharing their experiences. But not a lot of people, especially if they're not self-aware, haven't looked inward in any sort of way, gone to any sort of therapy or evaluation, or interacted with any sort of physicians or clinicians, you know, may not have had any inkling that they're narcissistic, you know, especially for people like maybe Trump or, you know, a CEO, like those successful ones. Yeah.
I mean, I haven't partaken of a lot of this content, but I know, yes, on the insightful narcissist, I would argue, I mean, there are people who are unapologetically narcissistic, and that, you know, okay, that may kind of speak to that same idea. And in some ways, we have people in our society who are like, yeah, you're damn right, I love myself. And, you know,
what's so wrong with that? Yeah.
Right. And yes, I will do whatever it takes for me to feel good and for my life to be, you know, this is making me slightly nauseous. So maybe I'm not a narcissist.
No. Just so the audience knows, Melissa is not a narcissist. Oh, God. You're not an asshole either. So.
I mean, I definitely have had asshole moments.
We can all be assholes at times. Raise your hand if you've been an asshole.
So when you're an asshole, you may think to yourself, I should apologize. And the good news is
I feel badly about that.
You were an asshole. It does not mean
that you were a narcissist.
A narcissist. Yeah. And sometimes apologies can be really challenging. So I know we found this cute little clip on Insta about, you know, if you hear an apology like this, then that means that you are a narcissist.
Her examples on the video are, I'm sorry you feel that way. That's not really apology.
It's definitely not an apology. And it is certainly something a narcissist might say,
Mm-hmm.
but it's also someone that's feeling really exposed, overwhelmed, like they can't get out of a situation that they put themselves in. Might say they might not be at the place yet of taking accountability. And I do think that that's important too, right? Like, if somebody in the moment does not apologize, but they come back and apologize later, they're not a narcissist. Now, if they come back later and they say, hey, I'm sorry you feel that way about what happened. Okay.
Yeah.
Then maybe they are narcissist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other one she said was, I said I'm sorry, what more do you want? I mean, they could say that even like, I said I'm sorry, what more do you want? Like, that's still not.
Or there could be, yes, an intentional pause. I said I'm sorry. What more do you want? I mean, that one to me, like the nonverbal on that would not be narcissistic, right? It would be like me being like, what can I do?
Yeah.
Like,
what more?
Desperation.
Yes.
Yeah. That it's more maybe you're triggering some abandonment stuff, some social anxiety stuff, but that's not about them being a narcissist.
Right.
Now, tone is important on that one.
I'm sorry, but is a common phrase.
It is. Yes.
Yeah. I think people get defensive in arguments, and which is why so many people probably in relationships are like, I was dating a narcissist.
Yes. Absolutely.
When maybe you're just, dealing with someone who didn't, didn't have good communication skills or emotional regulation skills, or wasn't able to articulate, or you just were a bad match. I don't know. It was a hostile environment. A hostile situation. But saying "but" after "I'm sorry" does not make you a narcissist.
No, it makes you defensive.
Yeah.
So maybe that's something to reflect on. The other person isn't going to hear the apology. Because of the but go back. If you go back after the fact and you recognize that, acknowledge that, take a moment to be like, okay, wait a second, I truly am sorry, and you leave it at that. And then, okay, not narcissist. And even with the but, I would argue, could be not narcissist. Depends on what they're saying after the but. If it's something that is self-reflective on their own experience, I'm feeling really overwhelmed, I'm this, I'm that. That may not necessarily be narcissistic if they're saying, but you always do this and you do that and you do this, and they're twisting the knife a little bit more.
Yeah.
More narcissistic, potentially.
Yeah. Or, I'm sorry, but you're a narcissist.
Right? Yeah. Well,
that could be a sign.
When we were researching this podcast, one of the things that comes up is if you're in a relationship with a narcissist, you are very likely to ask yourself, am I a narcissist?
Yeah.
And that is because you are living with a narcissist.
Yeah, they love to blame other people as narcissists.
Right. And they're kind of like, they're contagious, which isn't to say that you then become a narcissist, but it is to say that because of how they are interacting with you, you may be engaging in some defense mechanisms that you wouldn't otherwise, that may make you look a bit narcissistic at times.
Absolutely. Yeah. No. The last one's my favorite. I guess I'm always the bad guy then.
Yeah.
That's another very, very similar, maybe what we were kind of, speaking to about when they place it onto you is, they're going to make you feel like you're crap because you are just trying to voice some of your, emotions.
Yes. Right. Yeah. And I would argue is a telltale sign. That one may be of a covert narcissist.
Yeah.
Yeah. I am the victim. I am bad.
Yeah. Well, I guess I'm just a bad, friend or mom or.
Yeah. Now, it could also be a defense. It could be their way of saying, I'm deeply hurt.
Yeah.
And maybe it's, just that, really, that, there's something that was said that they're like, okay, this has been a consistent theme and I'm feeling really shitty about myself. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think all of these really, are taken with historical examples, right? Like there needs to be some long-term patterns across relationships, lack of flexibility, difficulty tolerating criticism, right? Like there needs to be more things than just like in an argument, they're defensive or they can't accept, blame in that moment.
If you are in a relationship with a narcissist, it can be very disorienting. And there are a lot of people who are trying to make sense of their reality, trying to make sense of their voice in a relationship, why they're feeling the way they're feeling. They may feel penned in, stuck, trapped. They may be being controlled in more overt ways, whether it's financial, whether it's physical abuse, emotional abuse, sexual abuse, you name it. I mean, I'm not saying all narcissists are perhaps traditionally abusive, but they can certainly be emotionally exploitative and abusive, and make you feel tiny, very small. And while, it's important for us to acknowledge that and consider the possibility of, who do you know that might be a narcissist or that kind of thing, I think it's important for us to just give a, quick nod to, hey, listen, just because you're in a relationship like that doesn't mean there isn't hope. There sure are ways out of those relationships, but a lot of times that doesn't feel accessible. And I think that's really important to point out. Is that you can be in a relationship with a narcissist and you can still create boundaries and thrive. And we are going to talk a little bit about just one example of that. And then we have some resources that we can share in the notes for this episode related to different ways to cope in a relationship with a narcissist. So everybody take a moment, breathe in, and envision a rock.
It's gray.
That's what we're going to talk about.
Said rock is gray, and you are going to become the rock. So this is a psychological strategy where you become as uninteresting and as emotionally unresponsive as possible as a gray rock. I don't know if anyone's ever interacted with a rock. They don't do much. You could paint a face on it. You could paint some words on it, but the gray rock's not going to interact with you. So you need to remove all emotion, reaction from the conflict. And then they have nothing to throw at you, blame, manipulate, or, engage with. So yeah, you just become a gray rock and you just don't respond at all.
Right.
Is that, would you like to add anything to that?
There's, I mean, or I guess on the painting, right? I mean, I think what I read was this could be, a different kind of rock, sulfur rock. I don't know, but there's also yellow rock.
Yellow rock.
Perhaps the more sophisticated iteration of this. And I mean, I would argue this one may be easier to utilize with friends, with people in the community, which is, people you work with, which is that you are essentially embracing the demeanor of an head of HR. Mm-hmm. So you are overly polite, overly pleasant, but entirely emotionally disconnected.
Yeah. The key of both of these is to emotionally disconnect. Yeah.
Now,
which is easier said than done.
I was going to say, now the trick here is that what does this really mean? Because it can sound and feel, I think, for people, if they're trying to practice this, like they're dissociating, like they're stepping outside of themselves. And I would argue that the cost of these relationships can be that essentially, we're fueling something along those lines as, how do you live in your life and not be in your life?
Yeah.
But nonetheless, if you can gray rock it and you're aware, you're consciously doing it, and then you go and you debrief elsewhere. You rely on community. You create community. The trick with being particularly in a romantic relationship with someone who is narcissistic is they tend to isolate you. Yeah. They tend to be judgmental of the relationships that you have, the time that you spend, the energy that you spend, and you can start to withdraw from people who provide you what you need. Emotional support, connection, community.
Yeah, so that you don't feel like the only person you have is this narcissist.
Right. Yeah. So if you rely on community outside of that and you are able to start to take strides to thrive and to live a separate life, that doesn't mean that, that means that you are taking steps to manage the situation. And, maybe that means that at some point you want to leave, but it may not, nor may it necessarily be the most adaptive depending on the situation. So,
yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. All right.
Well,
on that note, maybe we should mention a fun narcissist to close. So I know you mentioned Ross on Friends, that you thought he was a narcissist.
Yeah. I don't like Ross on Friends, and I think it's because he's a narcissist.
I'm hurt. I'm actually hurt that you would think I would send you any of those things out of anything other than love. Hurt. Hurt.
All right, Ross, I get it.
I mean, my God. Can't a guy send a barbershop quartet to his girlfriend's office anymore?
He just tends to be a little bit self-involved, a little bit self-absorbed. He doesn't really understand anyone else's experience. And if you also don't like Ross, join my Ross is a Narcissist fan club. My support group. Because everyone loves Ross and Rachel, and really the true couple that's worth emulating is Monica and Chandler. So if you feel the way I feel, let us know in the comments.
All right. Well, I mean, on that note,
thank you for listening.
Yeah, thank you. This has been a fun episode, albeit somber at times.
Yes.
Fun overall.
Yeah. Thanks for listening. Like and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, and we'll see you next time.